Fellas, Khalil Rountree just beat the absolute crap out of Jamahal Hill, blasting him across 5 rounds. It wasn't even relatively a close fight. Made it look easy against Jamahal Hill as he gets back into the contendership in the main event of UFC Baku. A card that I thought was alright. I thought this card was... it started off really slow. I don't think there was a single finish on the prelims. The main event, the main card, should I say, kind of heated up, but again, wasn't a great card, and it seems to be a bit of a trend recently, these fight nights underperforming. But we'll go in there with the first fight. Muhammad Usman versus Hamdy Abdelwahab. Classic unranked heavyweights going at it. Muhammad Usman picks up a decision win over Hamdy Abdelwahab. Hamdy Abdelwahab just seems to be on a bit of a self-sacrifice run in the UFC. Muhammad Usman just lands more. Abdelwahab might have some sort of record for the lowest output in the UFC right now. Muhammad Usman just lands the 1-2, started swinging and wobbled Abdelwahab a couple of times in this fight, but yeah, Abdelwahab just kind of refused to kind of throw anything. He circled the cage, didn't shoot any takedowns, didn't throw anything, and kind of just to let Muhammad Usman get the win. Yeah, I hate heavyweight MMA, and I'm going to talk about this in the Rizvan Kuniev versus Curtis Blades fight as well. This is just peak heavyweight MMA. How can one brother be so different to the other one in terms of skill? You've got Kamaru Usman, who just dominated number 7 ranked Joaquin Buckley, former champion, second greatest of all time, and then you fast forward to Muhammad Usman. I know it's the heavyweight division, but there's such a difference in skill differential. But you've got Hamdy Abdelwahab, the Olympic Greco-Roman wrestler who was destroying people on the regional scene, comes over to the UFC and shoots approximately 0 takedowns. Not only in this fight, but even did last fight against Jamal Pogues where he got a robbery win. And that's why I picked Muhammad Usman to win. You cannot trust Hamdy Abdelwahab. Throws absolutely nothing the entire fight. And Usman just simply throws punches. Nothing special, nothing neat. You know, if any other heavyweight would have been throwing anything back, they probably would have got the job done, but that did enough to give him the win. Another thing about Muhammad Usman, is it just me that notices? He looks like he gets wobbled every single time he moves. I don't know if it's a balance issue or some sort of issue with Muhammad Usman, but every single time he moves, it looks like he's wobbling all over the place. His balance is awful, but he picks up a win. I picked him to win the fight as well, but it wasn't really with full confidence because, I mean, it's unranked heavyweights we're talking about. Abdelwahab, honestly, cutting from the UFC. I know he beat Jamal Pogues, but it was a robbery win. Guy has to have some sort of record for the lowest output in the UFC. I guess good win for Muhammad Usman, back in the winning column after a few years. Then we had Tagir Ulanbekov versus Azat Maksum. Tagir Ulanbekov, as I expected, picks up a decision win. This was actually a pretty decent fight. Very, very evenly matched. Every time that Tagir Ulanbekov would try to take Azat Maksum down, he wouldn't really have the best success doing so. And even on the feet, very, very evenly matched. They were both throwing back and forth, both kind of in the clinch, having a bit of a scrappy striking matchup. But I really enjoyed this fight. One of the most evenly matched fights I've seen in a long time. Both of these guys were so evenly matched. They give it a 30-27 to Tagir Ulanbekov, which I thought was a dodgy scorecard because, listen, I thought Tagir definitely won the fight, but not 30-27. A lot of the times when he shoot a takedown, Azat Maksum's takedown defense and balance was amazing. There was even a time in the second or the third round where Azat Maksum shot a takedown, Tagir Ulanbekov grabbed the cage and still managed to take Tagir Ulanbekov down. So both very evenly matched. Even on the feet, Azat Maksum just blasting kicks. Tagir Ulanbekov landed the better shots in the pocket. But yeah, Ulanbekov landed the cleaner shots on the feet, which is why he won the fight. But it was a great fight. Both very evenly matched. Maksum did have amazing takedown defense though. And this is a stock increasing performance for Azat Maksum to come in your third fight in the UFC against Tagir Ulanbekov, a guy who had Makhachev and Khabib in his corner, is on a winning streak as well. And to go out there and, showcase that you not only, can hang in there with Tagir, but you're a better grappler than Scare. I thought Azat Maksum were winning the grappling exchanges. He did better when he was offensively grappling. And he defended a lot better than Tagir too. Didn't have to grab any cages. So I guess a good win for Tagir Ulanbekov, but it was expected. I feel like for Tagir Ulanbekov, he's not a world beater. He's never going to fight for a belt. I don't think he's ever going to hit the top 5. I mean, the dude got beaten by Tim Elliott, but I think he's a good kind of flyweight across that top 15 to top 8 range of the division. Great wrestler, probably the weakest fighter from that Khabib crew. And for Azat Maksum, definitely got potential to be in the top 15 in the future. Very, very evenly matched against Tagir Ulanbekov. Maybe let him beat 1 or 2 more unranked fighters and get him back in the top 15. So good performance from both. Good fight. Very evenly matched. Ulanbekov gets the win. Then we had Irina Alekseeva versus Klaudia Sygula. Klaudia Sygula looked great in this fight, was absolutely lighting up Alekseeva on the feet, and even in the grappling exchanges, which I predicted Alekseeva would take him down and get the submission early, Sygula was winning those too. She looked amazing in this fight. Really impressive performance from Sygula. I thought she was going to be one of these fighters that looks really good in the regional scene, comes over to the UFC and gets destroyed like she did in her debut against Mullins, but she just completely bullied Irina on the feet, dominated the grappling department, dominated her on the feet, thought she was going to get a finish at some point, and again, similar to Hamdy Abdelwahab Abdelwahab in the earlier fight. Alekseeva, who calls herself the Russian Ronda, known for her grappling background, refuses to shoot any takedowns, actually loses the grappling exchange between her and Klaudia Sygula. So it was a decent fight though. Klaudia Sygula they were kind of just both landing back and forth. Sygula definitely had the better start. Alekseeva was kind of just circling the cage and land a good shot every now and then they get back to striking range where Sygula would win. But she looked really good in this fight, and I think she's got potential in the bantamweight division. She does look quite small for the division. Imagine her against like a Kayla Harrison. But yeah, good win for Sygula. Keeps us place in the UFC. Definitely UFC worthy. Alekseeva can't make weight, inactive, not winning fights, not really sure she's UFC worthy. But for women MMA standards, it was a decent fight. And then the second women MMA fight of the card, we had Darya Zelensiakova versus Melissa Mullins. Zelensiakova looked like Sergey Pavlovich of the women's whatever division it was for the first round. Absolutely started blasting Melissa Mullins straight off the bat. Just got in her face, started landing shots, made her bleed. Melissa Mullins did well in the grappling exchanges though. Every single time she'd shoot a takedown on Zelensiakova, she'd do well with the grappling. She'd maintain dominant position. She'd do damage with ground and pound. If you look at the face of Darya in the end of the fight, it was absolutely roughed up. But she just left it too late. She went for the takedowns right at the end of every round, like the last minute of the first round, the last 2 minutes of the second round. If she'd have shot a takedown off the bat, I think she would have a much better chance. But yeah, Zelensiakova absolutely destroys Melissa Mullins for the first minute of the fight. Nearly gets to finish. Looked like Sergey Pavlovich. And then for the rest of the fight, it was kind of a competitive striking matchup. I'd say Darya was definitely winning the striking exchanges, which is why she won the fight. But Melissa Mullins would fight back every now and then with a right hand and wobble Darya. And like I said, she'd win the grappling exchanges. But Melissa Mullins, I don't know what it was. She just dominated the grappling exchanges, but only shot takedowns very late. Like she'd shoot at the end of the first and the second. Not really much else to say. Good win for Darya. Looks UFC worthy. They're 1-1 against each other. Run the trilogy for a pay-per-view main event is what it is. Then we had Ismael Naurdiev versus Jung Park. You can't really have a UFC card without a bit of controversy, and that comes in this fight. By the way, there was so many fouls in this fight before I got onto this fight. So many fouls during this card, which was not good to see. But Ismael Naurdiev ended up destroying Jung Park for the first half of the fight, and then decides that if poking him in the eyes twice weren't enough, he decides as he's going for the finish to knee him in the face in the most clear grounded opponent position ever, gets 2 points taken away. And then for the rest of the fight, it's classic Jung Park, dominating Ismael Naurdiev with the grappling, taking him down, mauling him. Jung Park's a fucking problem in the middleweight division, man. Listen, he's never going to be like a top 10 fighter. He's never going to be like a top elite middleweight, but his grappling's legit and his durability's legit. Naurdiev looked really good in the first 2 rounds. I was massively impressed. Rapid for the middleweight division, was clearly outboxing Jung Park, and he looked like for the momentum was in the favor of Naurdiev, and he was going to go and win a decision. Gets the 2 points taken away from him, and the last time we'd had 2 points taken away from a fighter was all the way back when Doug Jones beat Anthony Smith, and obviously had those 2 points taken away from him when Anthony Smith could have got the DQ. But he decides to run it over with a foul, which is just a shame for Naurdiev. Ended up thinking he won the fight. He ended up celebrating, but he could have won this fight. He was definitely, I think it was the second round when he got the points taken away. He was winning the fight comfortably. Even if he would have got mauled in the third round, he would have won the fight because he already won the first 2. So that knee really fucked it up for him. But yeah, Park just absolutely mauls Naurdiev after the deduction. If that would have got an extra round, he would have finished the fight, took him down, smothered him, and Naurdiev had nothing left. Just classic Jung Park, kind of alternating between ground and pound and looking for a submission. Nearly got the submission as well towards the end of the third round. But yeah, Park just absolutely mauled Naurdiev after the deduction to secure the win. And classic Iron Turtle gets the job done again. You want to need that Iron Turtle. You want to get a DQ win over Iron Turtle. Think again, Iron Turtle will beat the shit out of you. And that's exactly what he did. And for Naurdiev, I know a lot of people are saying he needs to get cut from the UFC, but I was actually impressed by the first 2. It's just you can't poke somebody not once, not twice, and then go for a knee and have the blessing of not being disqualified and then get gassed out and dominated. Just not a great performance from Naurdiev. Good performance from Jung Park. Comeback victory. Kind of lucky that he got kneed as well, because if he wouldn't have got kneed, even if he would have dominated the third, he wouldn't have won the fight. But anyway, good performance from Jung Park. And yeah, then we had Seukyong versus Oban. I smell a fraud check in the way of Oban, as Seukyong dominates the fight, wins the grappling exchanges, takes down Oban every round, and just, like I said, dominates the grappling exchanges. His reversals, his scrambles were amazing in this fight. Was beating him with ground and pound. Even when Oban would land a nice takedown, Cole would just perfectly reverse it and maintain top position, and he won this fight very comfortably. I think South Koreans are like the new Dagestani fighters. There's so many South Korean prospects in the UFC. We had that dude at UFC 316 the other week where he got that brutal KO. It seems like every single time a South Korean fights now, they're dominating. It's like the new Dagestani uncanny era with South Koreans. But yeah, Seukyong absolutely dominated Oban Elliott. Now, I know Oban Elliott was classed as a bit of a prospect, but I knew it was only a matter of time before Elliott would get found out. Like, let's be real. This guy had 3 wins in the UFC. All of them were cans. He had like 3 decisions as well, and his only finish was against Basil Hafez, whose best win was Mickey Gall at the time. I think Oban Elliott, and I don't just want to shit a fighter when they're down, but he just had a gifted UFC run, and he got exposed as he ends up losing to a debutant in the UFC in Seukyong, and it was an absolutely dominating performance from Seukyong. Mauled Oban Elliott every single round, round 1 to round 3, wasn't even close, took him down, and made it. I'm just absolutely made it. I mean, I just showed levels in this fight with Oban Elliott. I think Oban Elliott can definitely bounce back, but like I said before, he was never somebody that I ever thought was going to be something big in the welterweight division. Even coming into the UFC, he was on a decision run in Cage Warriors. He gets a decision win in the Contender Series, nearly gets finished by Val Woodburn, goes to a decision with Preston Parsons, finally gets a finish, but it's against Basil Hafez. I don't think that dude's in the UFC anymore, so as you know, I like Oban Elliott and everything. I just never really saw him as something massive in the welterweight division. For Seukyong, he was the guy to expose it. Again, South Koreans are taking over MMA. Looked amazing in this fight, and I think Seukyong, from how good he looked against a guy like Oban Elliott, definitely has potential to potentially get a fight in the top 15 in the welterweight division. So, dominating performance from Seukyong, disappointing fight from Oban Elliott. And yeah, I guess he can only bounce back from that. And then we had Mohamed Naimov versus Bogdan Grad, probably the worst fight on the card. Not really much to talk about. Bogdan Grad just spamming the same spinning back kick about 50 times in the fight. Mohamed Naimov would win most of the grappling exchanges. Bogdan Grad would come back and shoot a takedown as well. I've got to respect Bogdan Grad. He took a massive spinning wheel kick to the face in the first round and just immediately shot a takedown on Mohamed Naimov and got the back of him as well, just like Felipe Lima did. Naimov looked slick on the feet as he normally does. Wasn't really able to get going from Grad's grappling pace. I will say that about Bogdan Grad. Even though his striking's awful and he's a bit of just a low-level fighter, he has got pretty solid heart, and he's kind of got that just in-your-face aggressive style. But it was a boring-ass fight. You know, there's nothing else to talk about. I'm not going to sit here and waffle at 11 p.m. at night and talk about Naimov versus Grad. Naimov gets the win as expected, is what it is. Then we had... This is definitely the best fight on the card. Nazim Sadykhov, the first fighter from the home crowd against Nikolas Motta, as Sadykhov delivers a brutal KO. This was an amazing fight. That first round, I thought Motta was going to finish the fight. When he was unloading on Sadykhov against the cage, ripping to the body, landing the combinations, and the referee was staring at him, I thought they were going to stop it there and then, and Sadykhov was about to lose in front of everybody. And then, out of nowhere, Sadykhov makes a comeback and just starts blasting Nikolas Motta. And I think it was the second round, lands a massive shot against the cage and puts Nikolas Motta to sleep. But that first round was amazing. To go from Nazim Sadykhov, genuinely seconds away from getting finished, to come back in the fashion that he did, blasting Nikolas Motta, and to wobble in himself. This was an amazing fight. Definitely deserves fight of the night. Sadykhov needs to get a bonus because he's a legit prospect right now in the lightweight division on a huge unbeaten streak. Only had, I forgot, who was the draw against? Was it Bolshev who we had a draw against? But apart from that, he's on a huge unbeaten streak, finishing everybody. Great kickboxer with decent wrestling. Nazim Sadykhov is one of the best prospects right now in the lightweight division. Both guys, though, just beating the fuck out of each other, trading back and forth. Nikolas Motta with the boxing combinations, Sadykhov with the kickboxing at range, just as I expected. And for Sadykhov to nearly get finished and to come back like that's crazy. Give him a 50k. And as well, he got louder pop than anyone else, even bigger than Tagir and what's his name, Rafael Fiziev. Nazim Sadykhov's pop was bigger than everybody else's. And to win like that in the home crowd, superstar here in Azerbaijan, however the fuck you pronounce the place. So great win for Nazim Sadykhov. Honestly, wouldn't be against the idea of him getting somebody in the top 15. I know lightweight's a bit of a stacked division. Maybe you give him Bahamondes. Maybe you do Nazim Sadykhov versus Bahamondes. If you want to put on fun fights, get that on like some sort of pay-per-view prelim headliner. And for Nikolas Motta, made it fun. Seconds away from getting finished. If Mark Goddard was refereeing that fight, Nikolas Motta would have won by finishing the third, I'm telling you, in the first. But either way, fun fight. Great win for Nazim Sadykhov. Give him a 50k. Best performance on the card, in my opinion. Then we had Myktybek Orolbai versus Toyiq Mosayev. Before I talk about the fight, is Myktybek Orolbai able to fight at 155 in the future? I swear this is twice in a row now. He's had to get moved to 165. But Myktybek Orolbai gets the submission in the second round. Was it the second or was it the first? I think it was the second round, but he gets the submission over Toyiq Mosayev. Yeah, he made it look easy. Took down Toyiq Mosayev off the get-go. Didn't really struggle doing so, and eventually was able to find the submission in the first round against Toyiq Mosayev. I think it was a Kimura, or it might have been a straight on lock, but he gets the submission over Toyiq Mosayev. Again, proving that fighters outside the UFC ain't shit. Pachimix proved it. Patricio Pitbull proved it. Toyiq is going to prove it too, apart from women though. You know, I mean, Kayla Harrison comes over, she dominates. I think if Dakota Ditcheva came over to the UFC, she'd dominate, but it doesn't mean anything to be outside the UFC anymore. If you're like an AJ McKee or even like a Paul Hughes, it doesn't mean shit. You've got to come over to the UFC. Myktybek Orolbai is not even like a top 15 worthy fighter. He's top 20 at best. And Toyiq, who's this hyped up fighter from Baku outside the UFC, can't even beat him, gets dominated in the first round. But yeah, Myktybek Orolbai makes it look easy, takes him down in the first round, mauls him, submits him. Classic Myktybek Orolbai performance. Great win for Myktybek Orolbai. For Toyiq, he's what, 36 years old. Now I say you give him another chance in the UFC, but yeah, definitely isn't the highest level 155er. Again, if you want to become a good fighter in MMA and you're not good enough to make it into the UFC, never come to the UFC, because unless your name's MVP or you're a woman, chances are you ain't going to make it. So great win for Myktybek Orolbai. Gets the job done, makes it look easy in enemy territory as well. But I don't know if he's going to be fighting at 155 or 170 in the future. I think he could probably make both weight classes, but he needs to lock in, probably needs to make 155. Is what it is. Then we had Curtis Blades versus Rizvan Kuniev, reinforcing the idea that I despise heavyweight MMA. How did Curtis Blades fight Tom Aspinall for a belt just less than a year ago? Rizvan Kuniev, I will say, looked impressive on the feet. Curtis Blades was a bit of a victim on the feet in this fight. He was absolutely getting dominated in the striking exchanges. Rizvan Kuniev was dealing some legit damage to Curtis Blades, but Curtis Blades had come back and kind of just had the classic hold him against the cage game plan against Rizvan Kuniev, holding him against the cage, pressuring him against the cage. Apparently he tore his MCL in the first round, which is fair enough, and I think this was the first takedown Curtis Blades has shot since 2021, because obviously well, the fight with Almeida didn't shoot a takedown, neither did he against Aspinall, Pavlovich, Chris Daukaus. But yeah, heavyweight sucks, man. This is Curtis Blades. And listen, I don't want to disrespect Blades, I like to do, but this guy's a top 5 heavyweight and fought Tom Aspinall. This is Aspinall's best performance. Curtis Blades is Tom Aspinall's best win. It just shows the state of this division. Kuniev, I will say this, if we're going to do a ranking of fat heavyweights in the UFC, Rizvan Kuniev is at the top of that list. He's definitely top 10 material. I mean, the fact that he beat Renan Fajeda, the fact that he arguably beat Curtis Blades in this fight, I thought Blades definitely got the job done, but, you know, he was lighting Curtis Blades up on the feet. Maybe if he'd have done a little bit more and got away from the cage, he would have won the fight. But definitely top 10 material is Rizvan Kuniev. I can definitely see him like destroying somebody like Marcin Tybura, but shouldn't have been given this material, shouldn't have been given this fight. He got popped for every steroid under the book in PFL. He's a drug cheat. He comes over and gets a top 5 fight in his UFC debut. So even though Rizvan Kuniev's top 10 worthy, and it is good to have new names in the heavyweight division, which is such a deprived talent division, he definitely doesn't deserve Curtis Blades. And for Curtis Blades, called out Cyril Gahn. Doubt they're going to do that. They're probably going to do like Curtis Blades versus Volkov or some shit. Or maybe Waldo Cortez Acosta. I think he's now been booked against Pavlovich. But either way, boring fight. Blades holding him against the cage. Rizvan lighting him up against the feet. It's fat heavyweights going at it. What do you expect? Blades gets the win. And then we had Rafael Fiziev versus Ignacio Bahamondes. I wouldn't mind if both of these guys get a performance bonus as well, because it was a really good striking matchup. Started off as a bit of a technical striking matchup, but immediately after the first round, both of these guys were going at it. Both of these guys were exchanging. Bahamondes threw about 20 high kicks. Fiziev dodged every one of them. It was kind of just a scrappy fight. And we also got to see a bit of wrestling from Rafael Fiziev as well in the second and the third round, where he take down Bahamondes and control him with the wrestling. I feel like Fiziev's definitely improved his wrestling. We saw him take down Gaethje in his last fight, and now he's taking down Bahamondes. But this was an amazing fight. Started off as a bit of a chess match where they were both kind of filling each other out, but eventually in the second and the third round just became scrappy. Rafael Fiziev lighting up Nat Bahamondes with the striking, and just to show us how good of a striker and how beautiful the striking is of Rafael Fiziev, that a guy like Bahamondes, who's 6'3", the tallest guy in the lightweight division, still isn't able to get going with the kickboxing against Rafael Fiziev. He's one of those fighters in Rafael Fiziev. He's just so unique to watch. You know, the guys like MVP and certain strikers in the UFC that are so unique to watch. Fiziev's one of them. He's striking's beautiful. I want to see him against somebody in the top 10. It's kind of hard to matchmake him because there isn't really anybody in the top 10 coming off a loss right now that isn't booked, but I'm sure there's somebody for Fiziev. But the fact that Bahamondes isn't top 15, I know he was 15 after he beat Jalin Turner, but the fact that he's currently not top 15 just shows how stacked this division is, that a guy like Bahamondes, who's just blasting everybody and loses a close fight to Fiziev, isn't even top 15. But it was a great fight, striking back and forth. Fiziev looked great, got the win in front of his home crowd in Baku. Give him somebody in the top top 10, and he looks great in this fight. So, yeah, good win for Rafael Fiziev. Give him a performance bonus. And I think Bahamondes can definitely bounce back. He has got a bit of a small frame for the lightweight division because obviously he's 6'3", so when it does come to the grappling exchanges, he is inferior. But I think if he was to make a move to welterweight, that could be a potential option. But good performance from Rafael Fiziev. Fun fight for both of them, given 50k. And then we had the main event. Before I talk about the fight, where the fuck was the crowd? The crowd was, it was like watching an Apex event that had been glorified and it had been expanded to a couple hundred more guys in the audience. But very, very atmosphereless event, or atmosphereless fight, should I say. It seems like everybody left the crowd after Rafael Fiziev, but yeah, Khalil Rountree won a really, really dominant decision. This has to be one of the most dominant 5-round fights we've seen this year. Absolutely blasted the legs of Jamahal Hill, absolutely blasted the body of Jamahal Hill, was landing the better shots. I think he dropped him 3 times in this fight. There hasn't been a more dominant performance recently in the light heavyweight division. Khalil Rountree just beats the shit out of Jamahal Hill across 3 rounds. And listen, I don't want to be that guy that the second someone starts losing, I'm like, oh, was he ever that good? But was Jamahal Hill ever that good? Like, he got a pretty easy title reign beating a 42-year-old Golovkin Shera after a win over Johnny Walker. He's been knocked out by Alex Pereira, Yuri Prochazka, and dominated by Khalil Rountree. You can go back to the prelims against Bogdan Guskov now. But was Jamahal Hill ever that good? I was kind of surprised that people were picking Hill to win this fight, especially after we just saw how Khalil Rountree performed against Alex Pereira. He's one of the best strikers in this division, is Rountree. I think him and Yuri Prochazka, I'm not saying that should be next because Yuri's coming off a win, but you know, that's like a dream come true. That's like a Yuri Prochazka versus Khalil Rountree, dream come true. But very technical matchup. Rountree just straight up blasting Hill's legs and countering up top. Wasn't the highest output fight. A lot of feeling each other out, but when they did exchange, it was just Rountree putting everything into every shot. Vicious intent into every leg kick. And fair play to Jamahal Hill, you know what I mean? He was tough to make it past the 3rd round, you know. After he got his leg slashed up in the first 2, and he got dropped like twice in the 3rd, I thought he was going to be done, but he made it to the 5th round. But it was a great win for Khalil Rountree. Dominated Jamahal Hill, straight back into title contention. 1 or 2 more good wins away from a title fight, and Khalil Rountree's back into contendership. And it's only fun facts from here, you know. Maybe somebody like Dominic Reyes next, who's on a win streak. I know that's technically a step down in the rankings, but if you market that fight as maybe a #1 contender fight, Jamahal Hill, Khalil Rountree versus Dominic Reyes, I think there's a potential fight there. But yeah, great win for Khalil Rountree. Dominates Jamahal Hill, beats the crap out of him. And for Jamahal Hill, bit of a layoff now. 3-fight losing streak, hasn't won a fight since January of 2023. Honestly, for Jamahal Hill, move up to the heavyweight division. He's got a belly for light heavyweight, and if he was to move up to the heavyweight division, he'd probably be top 10 material. He'd probably beat a Sergey Spivak, probably beat some Marcin Tybura, probably beats like a Rizvan Kuniev. If Jamahal Hill wants to stay winning, just move up to heavyweight. It's a cheat code. Anyway, final thoughts on UFC Baku. How would I rate this card? Was it great, good, average, poor, or trash? I'm going to be honest, this might be critical. For a fight night in a crowded arena, I'm going to say it's a poor card. Apart from maybe a good fight here and there on the main card, like Nazim, Sadykhov, and Fiziev in the main event, it was filled with decisions. The prelims might have been some of the worst prelims we've seen this year, and it just wasn't that good of a card for a crowded arena. There wasn't really any atmosphere in the main event, so I'm going to say, unfortunately, I didn't want to say this, especially after UFC Atlanta, but this was quite a poor card. But that's my UFC Baku full cards thoughts on breakdown. Let me know your thoughts on this card and Khalil Rountree's performance. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks.